Chatcast. And one of the things I make every effort to do on Chatcast is to talk about the things that you want to talk about that are the most difficult to talk about. We're living in a deeply culturally confused time where the one thing that connects us all is how we feel. You know, we all have suffering, we all have grief, we all have confusion, we all are having to change our relationship to each other, to ourselves, and to the planet. We're all doing it. That is the one thing, regardless of how you feel about other things or what you perceive your relationship to be, we are all connected and we are all going through this right now. So today's topic is going to be on resistance. What is it? What is it not? Is it valuable? Is it not? So resistance is your energy's way, or your subconscious mind's way of getting your attention. It is it lets you know what is coming for you. It lets you know, it slows your process down to be able to become mindful of how you feel about your current situation or the situation at hand. The thing that you are resisting is trying to educate you on what it is. And so resistance is our process. It's a part of the spiritual process of moving forward that clues us in. You know, everybody's heard thou shalt protest too much. Thou dost protest too much. Shakespeare. Yeah, that went over really well. When we protest too much, it's because our unconscious self is saying, hey, pay attention to this thing. It's valuable to you in some way, or we need you to learn something new about this in some way. And so pay attention here. And it is your relationship to that resistance that I think clarifies a timeline for you. Because oftentimes we have a goal in mind. There's something that we want to do. There's something that we want to happen. And all the steps that we know to take that would bring us forward in that thing are the very things that we resist the most. And so know that. That's Gizmo. I hope it doesn't gross you out too much. Yes, I let him drink out of my water. I do. Okay. Anyway, I gave up resisting that a long time ago. Anyway, so the thing that we want the most, we resist taking the actions that will clear the path for us, or at least it appears that way. But what's really happening is the thing that we're resisting the most, we are slowing down the process and almost backing up a little bit to be able to look at what that is. And what does that mean for us? And what is it telling us about ourselves, and telling us about where we may need to heal something in our mind, spirit, or body. So that is resistance. I want to, as you know, I always take a little bit from the Conquer Your Karmic Relationships, Heal Spiritual Trauma to Open Your Heart and Restore Your Soul. Because it's a manual on everything that you need to know right now for yourself and for other people. So the couple of passages that I came up with for this one comes from part 2, Affinity. And it's about synergy and resistance. The more we can, resistance is always going to be there. We're always going to have to move through it. And so when we see resistance, the more we acknowledge and embrace the process that resistance brings us the information that we need, the more we move through that and allow it and accept it and be grateful for that, the more we allow that flow to keep moving, it turns into synergy. So mindfulness of behavior patterns are the building blocks of relationships, especially yours. Relationships are the result of the combining and intersecting of spiritual life patterns between partners. For every lock, there is a key to open it. Mindfulness is the natural synergy created between people when they accept their differences and begin to understand the purpose and movement of their intertwining. By now, I'm certain you've gathered the theme of self-responsibility and personal autonomy as the pathway to happiness and harmony through mindfulness. Know that resistance, conflict, and struggle are as much a part of the process. It is the repression of these dynamics that create discord, not their presence. It is the presence of them that is most valuable, not the repression. The repression is the thing that causes the imbalance. When we embrace resistance and recognize what it's trying to teach us, that is the point at which we gain and can move forward. It clears the path for us to be taking whatever action that is necessary, or whatever it is that we've been looking towards. I should say, in addition to that, that when you resist something, I think I spoke about this in the last podcast. And this is interesting. It's interesting to me, may not be to you, but my father was in broadcasting. He was a radio announcer for the morning drive time, and he died in 1978. And just recently, a family member who had all of these obituaries. He was really popular in the Southwest here in the United States. And so people sent my family members the obituaries that were all over from New Mexico, all over the Southwest and New Mexico, that had been written about him. And one of the things I don't remember, I was very, very young when he died, is that there were 1,000 people, over 1,000 people at his funeral. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember I got a new dress. And I remember that I was giggling and waving at my friends when I saw them in the audience. That is what I remember from that day. And that's a form of resistance. Laughing, giggling, not being able to take in the full weight of what's happening is a part of that resistance. It's a part of resistance. It's not being disrespectful. It is creating a space inside of you to connect in whatever way that you can to what is happening. And as my father was in broadcasting, one of the things that growing up from that point all the way into adulthood is when I heard his voice in these old tapes of his broadcasts, I thought I didn't know who that guy was. He was not my dad. It was whoever hi, I'm blah, blah, blah. Like whatever that was, it seemed fake to me, and it always made me angry. And because of that, I resisted doing my own podcast, doing my own video chats with people. I resisted it because I don't know that I didn't want to be perceived as fake. I just didn't want to be fake. And I perceived that whole, hi, I'm blah, 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 that we often see in people in broadcasting, right? Because we have a formula that we like to see and what we find acceptable and what is lovely for us to hear. And whatever that is, that defined protocol, I think is the thing that I resisted. But most of all, I resisted not wanting to be perceived as fake, because that's how I felt about that guy that my father was, that I didn't know. So interestingly enough, over this past year, I have dawned this new idea for myself of how I want to relate to others. It's, I love people, and I know that we are all dealing with some really profound things. And so this is our opportunity to begin to talk about them in a way that does not include shame. Shame may be a part of it, but it's not the place, it's not where we're going. We have a right to express how we feel and to have that honored. And hopefully those feelings will release into feelings of wellness and connection and love, as opposed to isolation, devastation, and what's the word I want? When you're cut off, when you disconnection from other people. So resistance is your opportunity to do that extra work. I have another passage to read, and this is the time where if anybody has any questions or wants to talk about or tell me about a situation about resistance, this is the time to put those questions in your chat browser. Okay. There we go. So part of how this book is designed is I give you the warrior's hidden motto. A warrior is someone who is always going to find conflict because that's what a warrior does. A warrior is intended to go into a situation to bring peace to the situation, but to overcome it in some way. And once that's done, if you're still in a warrior's position, you're going to continue to go find another conflict to resolve because that's what a warrior does. So the warrior's hidden motto here, his hidden belief or her hidden belief about herself, in this case is I am invisible. And so we're going to talk a little bit about overcoming that invisibility. Namaste, you guys all know that word. Namaste is a Sanskrit word meaning to bow. It is often used as a greeting that personifies the meeting of two people in love and respect. The God in me sees the God in you. This is the antidote to invisibility. Because this is such a unique time in our history and many people are having to change long-held skill sets, beliefs, and ideologies in very short periods of time, families who have anchored certain jobs, expertise, or traditions in certain locations are in upheaval as the need for those jobs or skills become obsolete. Much how we witnessed changes in the city of Detroit as major car companies took an economic dive in the recent past. We are seeing this happen all over. The globalization of knowledge and the web, the social acceptance and deeper understanding of once taboo groups, immigration, and our relationship to other countries, war, and its impact on all of us, and a new understanding of the purpose of religion are all challenging our ideas, jobs, habitats, and more. Okay? So this resistance that you have to any of those things I just mentioned, and we know all of us have at least one in that group. At least one, if not five. Your goal is to look at that thing, embrace it, say, okay, what is it that I need to change about my thinking regarding religion, regarding spirituality, regarding politics, regarding the government, regarding war, regarding my relationship to the planet, right? What is it I need to change about my family's heritage? You know, what we've always believed, what we've always thought, what we've always done. You know, what we've always ... may not be awesome. And maybe you are the person that's standing in the shoes with the path to move forward from that tradition and to change it. And now is the time to change those long-held traditions, which is what we talked about last week. You know, sometimes we have traditions, you know, we talked about traditions last week of cooking a turkey in a particular way because the oven was too small, or you know, writing something out every single month because almost 100 years ago there wasn't a copy of it. There was no way to copy it. So there are things that have changed in our environment, in our technology, in our ways of thinking that have transformed so deeply, but our elder generations and our ancestors didn't have the ability to change, didn't have the environment to change, but we do. And that gives us the responsibility to become aware of some of those things that might be able to run more differently, more inclusively, easily than how it used to be. So we have a comment or question from Stephen. Hi, Stephen. So So I'm usually pretty aware of my resistance to certain actions, and usually I allow it to sort of mull about until it moves and shifts on its own, allowing me to move forward. But what to do during that time when frustration gets the upper hand, even though I know that all this too must pass? Okay. When you're talking about that frustrated energy, understand that how the human aura works is your first layer out of energy. We can't necessarily see it, but it's dense. And we call it the body double. And that is the first layer of energy in our aura that when we go to change a habit and sometimes even a belief or a thought, when we go to change that, we get irritated, we get aggravated. We can feel that our body double does not, it's saying, hey, pay attention here. I don't know if this is right where you want to go. And so it's making you pay attention to whatever action you want to take because it is not what you've been doing. So it's just a high alert alarm that tells you, hey, you need to pay attention here. If you will give yourself a new habit to pursue. So in this case, if you have an idea, you know that your things are going to move through, but you're experiencing that aggravated energy, give yourself something to do with that energy. Clean your house. I know this is not what you're expecting to hear. Clean your house, clean your bathroom, clean all of the sources of water flow in and out of your home, bathroom, kitchen. It's very interesting when you begin to focus on those energies by cleaning the house, by cleaning your mind. You can also journal. You can write out, the 10 reasons why I'm irritated right now, and look at their common denominator. But giving yourself an action to do, something physical that engages you, will not only use up that energy, but it actually clears a path, literally, in your brain, your heart, your body, and your mind. It clears a path for you to easily move forward in whatever that thing is. And it also will always, whether it's cleaning, I know for me, I get some really deep insights when I'm doing the dishes. That's my thing. When I do the dishes, I used to hate the dishes. And if you had come over to my house 20 years ago, there would be my kitchen was just, it was disgusting. Yes, I got maggots a couple of times in my kitchen. Because I couldn't take it. I couldn't emotionally, I was not good at the repetition that it took to cook and then clean. And it was awful. Anyway, the whole point is now I clean dishes. If I don't load the dishes in the dishwasher, I clean them twice a day. So by the time night comes, nothing is sitting dirty in my kitchen overnight. I wipe everything down. Like that's a thing now. It became a thing. And what happens in that thing, performing that task, clears a space for me to become mindful of what comes next. How can things change? How can I move through these deep, difficult feelings? So, hi, Melanie and Frederick. Hello. So Melanie says, I like your use of the word responsibility. Personally, I find myself in this position often of assuming more personal responsibility. So here's the thing. Personal responsibility isn't something that somebody else puts on us. It is something that spiritually our spiritual nature is inclined to recognize that we have complete and total personal responsibility in everything we do. Even some of those things that aren't our fault in this realm. So if you have been perpetrated on by somebody and you're a victim, that situation is not your fault. But your spirit, as you begin to heal and you get to the spiritual level of healing, yourself will say, well, how and why can you be different? It's not necessarily how you could have kept that thing from happening, but what have you gained from it? What were the circumstances that belied it? What can you do differently? How can you change who you are or not necessarily who you are, but how can you become more of who you are and change what you do? So it is our natural spiritual response to everything to want to become accountable and responsible to it, which just means that we own that it happened, that we grieve our loss, and that we choose to heal on every level where we have an injury. Okay. That feels like a great place to go boop, and end this thing. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, well, this has been great. This has been a good little talk on resistance and why it is so valuable and how it is a natural part of everything that you will do and every transition that you'll make. So again, this has been Tracee Dunblazier for Chatcast. It's been magnificent, and I hope you guys have a stellar weekend. Okay.